Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into some really deep waters today, aren't we? Tackling that huge spiritual question. What is the self, really? And what's this ultimate reality we're all apparently aiming for?
It's definitely the big quest, and the sources you've brought in pit two, well, philosophical heavyweights against each other. Atman, the idea of a true, lasting self in Anatta, which is this really radical concept that there's no permanent self at all.
Right. And our mission here isn't just to define them. We want to follow that powerful metaphor you mentioned, the drop of water in the ocean,
Yes, that one comes up a lot.
to really see where these paths of Vedanta, mostly for the Atman side, and Buddhism for Anatta, where they really diverge on the universe, on the goal, and maybe most importantly, on you, the individual.
It's a fundamental split. Are you searching for a home you lost? Or are you realizing that the whole idea of home was maybe just a story you constructed? We'll see that even if the end goal sounds similar sometimes, the path, the method, the whole mindset required is dramatically different.
Okay, let's start with that image, the drop returning to the ocean. It's quite comforting, right? It comes mainly from Vedanta.
It is comforting, absolutely, because it starts with the assumption that you fundamentally exist.
Hmm.
In this view, ultimate reality, often called Brahman, the absolute source, is like this vast, undivided ocean, eternal, complete.
And we as individuals, we're the small drops, the jiva, the soul, holding the Atman inside.
Exactly. The Atman is seen as a spark, a fraction, maybe a reflection of that immense source. And because it comes from the eternal, it is eternal itself.
So the problem is an inherent flaw. It's just separation, being cut off.
Precisely. Sasara, the cycle of birth and death, that's just the time the drop spends feeling separate, lost in this world of duality of me and other.
Which means the goal, moksha, liberation. It's about waking up.
Purely realization. The Atman just needs to recognize its own truth. Wait, I'm not separate. I am the source. Like the drop, realizing it's always been water and merging back into the ocean.
The key thing here, then, is that this view insists there's a real, permanent self, the Atman, that exists.
Absolutely crucial. The journey is about rediscovery. Like finding a jewel you forgot you had buried under dust. The jewel was always there, always valuable.
That has a really appealing logic to it. You are something real, something eternal underneath it all. But okay, now we hit the contrast. Because the Buddhist teaching of anatta non-self just seems to pull the rug out from under that completely.
It really does. It's the radical counterpoint. If Vedanta offers the thesis of a true self, Anatta is the antithesis. No permanent, unchanging soul ever broke off from anywhere. The very idea of an Atman is denied.
Whoa, hold on. That's huge. How does that even work practically? If you don't exist in that permanent way, who's doing the meditating? Who's trying to get liberated?
And that's where the subtlety lies, according to the sources. That feeling of I, of
Yeah.
me, is incredibly powerful, right? But Buddhism says the very strength is the core of the illusion, Maya. It's not that nothing's happening. It's that the self isn't a thing, it's a process. A dynamic flow, not some static entity.
So how do we see through this illusion, this process?
By looking closely at what makes up that feeling of I. The sources talk about the 5 aggregates, the skandhas. These are like categories. Form, your body, feeling, present, unpleasant, neutral, perception, recognizing things, mental formations, thoughts, intentions, biases, and consciousness itself.
Okay, the building blocks.
Right. And the point is, these are constantly changing, arising, passing away moment to moment. They're unstable, impermanent, Annika, as the sources say.
But the self is just this flickering combination of these unstable parts that we mistakenly label me, like watching a movie and thinking the characters are real people.
That's a good way to put it. Because the components are inherently impermanent and conditioned, the self they create is also inherently impermanent and conditioned. It's like a candle flame. The flame is there, but is it the same flame from one second to the next? No. It's a continuous process, not a fixed thing.
Okay, if that's the case, then nirvana must mean something totally different too. If there's no drop self to return to the ocean source, what is nirvana in this view?
It's not union, it's extinction. Nirvana literally means to extinguish or to blow out. It's the complete cessation, the stopping of suffering and the mental defilements, kilesa, greed, hatred, delusion that fuel the whole cycle of rebirth. The fire of the illusory self just goes out.
So the drop doesn't return home. It's more like the surface tension holding the drop shape just dissolves. There was no real traveler, just a temporary configuration.
Exactly. The illusion of separateness ceases to be generated. And that, you see, changes the whole motivation. Vedanta is motivated by remembering your internal nature, Buddhism is motivated by the urgency of stopping the suffering caused by the illusion right now.
This leads us straight to that big question our listener raised. If both paths aim to get beyond this conditioned reality, don't they kind of end up in the same place, an ultimate reality that's, well, empty, maybe indescribable?
And that's where it gets philosophically fascinating. Because yes, at the very highest, most abstract level, they get remarkably close. Especially if you bring in the Mahayana Buddhist idea of shunyata, emptiness.
Okay, help us connect Shunyata and Brahman without our heads exploding.
Right? Think about Brahman in Vedanta. Sometimes it's described with attributes Sagutta Brahman, like a creator god, personal qualities.
Yeah.
But then there's Nirgut Brahman.
Attributeless.
Exactly. The absolute beyond all description, all form, all qualities. Unconditioned.
Okay, the ultimate reality stripped bare.
Yes. Now that state sounds very similar to the Buddhist concept of shunyata. But shunyata isn't just nothingness. It means emptiness of inherent existence, emptiness of a permanent, independent self-nature in anything. Nothing stands alone, nothing is permanent.
So both Nirgutta Brahman and the state achieved in nirvana point to something unconditioned, beyond our usual way of thinking. Asakata Dhamma, the unconditioned element.
They definitely converge on the idea of the unconditioned, the end of duality, the end of mental fabrication, where definitions fall apart.
Yeah.
But, and this is the crucial near miss, the interpretation of that ultimate reality still differs.
How so?
Vedanta tends to imply that this ultimate reality is an eternal existing substance, the real you Brahman, whereas the Buddhist view, especially through sunyata, suggests it's the cessation of unreality, the end of clinging to non-existent substances. It's an absolute ending of a process, not the discovery of an underlying thing.
It's like the Vedantist takes off the mask and says, aha, I was the king underneath all along.
Yes.
And the Buddhist takes off the mask and says, aha, there was never a king, only the process of wearing and removing masks.
That captures the flavor of it really well. So the method remains distinct.
Huh.
Find the real self hidden by illusion. Anatta. Let go of the fabricated self that causes suffering.
Which brings us to what feels like the most practical difference, highlighted in the sources, the beginning. The half-book question, you could call it. Vedanta seems to give you the whole story, origin included.
Right.
But Buddhism seems to jump in midstream, focusing just on the escape plan.
That's a really sharp observation, and it highlights a key divide. Vedanta offers a clear cosmology. Brahman is the source, the substance. The Atman somehow splits off, veiled by Maya. It's a complete narrative arc, beginning, middle, end, goal of return.
But the Buddha, famously, didn't really talk about the ultimate origin, did he? Why the silence?
He specifically taught that Samsara, this cycle of rebirth we're in, is animataga, its beginning. It's inconceivable, unfindable, not revealed. The focus wasn't on mapping the start of the river.
It was on getting out of the flood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stop the flow. And since Anattā denies a permanent soul substance, there's no need for a story about a soul fragment breaking off from a source anyway. That whole narrative doesn't fit.
So the focus stays relentlessly on the present condition. Suffering, its causes, karma, the aggregates, and how to stop that process right now. Speculating about the ultimate beginning is seen as unhelpful.
Worse than unhelpful, potentially a distraction. This refusal to answer metaphysical questions about origins, the avyakata, the undeclared points, wasn't ignorance, the sources suggest. It was a deliberate, pragmatic strategy.
And this is where the famous analogy comes in, isn't it?
The poisoned arrow just cuts through everything.
Yeah.
So practical.
Okay, lay it on us. The poisoned arrow.
Imagine you get shot with a poisoned arrow right now. You're in pain. The poison is spreading. What's the absolute most urgent thing to do?
Pull the arrow out. Get the antidote. Stop the bleeding.
Right. You wouldn't sit there and say, hold on. Before we deal with this agonizing wound, I need to know who shot this arrow? What village are they from? What kind of wood is the shaft made of? What feathers are on the fletching? What specific poison is this?
No, that would be insane. You'd be dead before you got the answers.
Precisely. And the Buddha's point was, we are all shot by the poisoned arrow of suffering, of birth, aging, death, dissatisfaction. The urgent task is liberation now. Questions about the ultimate origin of the universe, whether the self is eternal or not, where the shooter came from. These are like asking about the arrow's wood while the poison spreads.
Wow, okay. That analogy really lands. It shifts the whole frame from finding the ultimate truth to solving the immediate critical problem.
It highlights the core difference in orientation. Atman path. We
Yeah.
came from the absolute source. Let's realize our unity with it again. Anatta path. Look, we're suffering now. Let's figure out how to stop this, regardless of where this ultimately came from. Buddhism offers the complete toolkit for escaping the current cycle. That's the mission.
So bringing all this together, synthesizing what we've explored from the sources, it seems like you, the listener, are faced with a really fundamental choice in your spiritual seeking. Is the quest about union, finding and merging with a permanent, real origin, your true self.
Or is it about cessation? About completely extinguishing the mistaken idea of a permanent self right here, right now, because that idea is the root of suffering.
The practical application feels huge. If the Ātman path's goal is realizing tathā masi, you are that, you are the absolute, the motivation is reclaiming this incredible, inherent, eternal identity.
A powerful motivator, the return to glory, you might say.
Yeah, and if the Anapath goal is realizing you never were a fixed, enduring self in the first place, the goal is the utter relief, the freedom that comes from dissolving the burden of identity altogether.
Complete letting go.
Yeah.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with, drawing it all together, is this. Whether your drive comes from wanting to reunite with the perfection you believe you lost, or from the urgent need to dissolve the illusion currently causing pain, which approach actually gets you to pull out that poisoned arrow today? Which framework makes you act now to end the suffering inherent in conditioned existence? That seems to be the vital question.